Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Angela McArdle. I am the chair of the National Libertarian Party. I think I know quite a few of you, or you know me, at least in the Twitterverse. And I have with us this evening my co-host, Nick Brana, chair of the National People's Party.
Hi, everyone.
Delighted to have him with me this evening. So we are going to share with you a few of our plans tonight, what we're doing, why we're doing it. We're going to have some really amazing guests on with us, people who are going to be at our rally in DC, who are going to talk about the history of the war in Ukraine, why it matters to speak out, what their role has been, what we hope to achieve, and so on and so forth. But I want to tell you guys, aside from the mechanics of the rally, I think there's a lot of lessons that we can take out of this action that we've put on together. I'm a glass half full kind of person. And if there's no silver lining to a situation, I tend to think that I'm probably not looking at things the right way. And while we're faced with obvious, deadly serious problems in the world right now, I think there are some really good things to take away from it all. The last 3 years, for example, have been an excellent bullshit detector test. And it's not just libertarians who've raised the alarm on things like COVID mandates, lockdowns, and military spending. We have found some outstanding allies in these battles. Nick Brana and the People's Party are one of them. And we're going to have some other guests on who are great allies as well. A lot of people look at this event as a joining of the left and right independent political sectors. But I think there's a deeper way of understanding the political landscape and our place in it, and maybe even the future. I think it's time to sort of break apart the two-dimensional paradigm of right and left, Republican and Democrat. And I think our parties and really all independent-minded people represent sort of this three-dimensional element of the political spectrum. Voices that are suppressed by this sort of false binary that have the power to break and crush under heel the murderous policies of the establishment political class if we are willing to set aside some of our differences and work together on our shared goals. Over the last few years, the lines between the stereotypical left and right have begun to heavily blur. Democrats have, quite frankly, become the war party. They've abandoned civil liberties. And while the GOP and DNC are still far apart on cultural issues, both parties are pretty much given over to neocons and warmongering. The Libertarian Party stands for individual rights and for economic freedom and for peaceful relations abroad. And the People's Party may have different ideas about economics, but they want to abolish corruption, defend civil liberties, and have transparent elections. We're both staunchly anti-war. We both want to see an end to deadly American military conquest that stretches across the world, leaving a wake of suffering and destruction in its path. We don't want to live in the cold shadow of nuclear winter, and we both believe it's worthwhile to form relationships built on issues of agreement in order to advance our common causes. We believe it's worth the work to operate from the perspective of shared values and to explore further alliances. And that's part of why we're here today. And that's why we're working together on this incredible event. And that's why we'll probably keep working together on other cool projects in the future. So I'm going to turn it over to Nick now, and he's going to share with you a few more details of our Rage Against the War Machine rally in DC.
First of all, I got to say that is so well said, Angela. There is a transformation happening across this country where I think people are realizing that the old left-right paradigm is not as relevant as it's simply a few elites at the top, military-industrial elites especially, that are controlling everything, making all the decisions for us. And so that's part of what we are actually rebelling against with Rage Against the War Machine. And as the People's Party, and me personally, I've been thrilled to work together with Angela, with everybody who's at the Libertarian Party. It's been such a great collaboration, and it has proven that if parties with views as different as ours, especially in economic policy, can come together around the issue of abolishing war, abolishing empire, abolishing the CIA, abolishing NATO, and really building a world of peace, ending this insane march to nuclear war in Ukraine, then really we can collaborate as a country. It isn't our destiny to be separated by the mainstream media and the mainstream political parties. It isn't our this kind of, force of nature that we can't overcome. Rather, when you get past that, you get past the labels, you get past the ideologies, the stereotypes, and you work with people, then you see them as human beings, just like you are, with many of the same needs and wants and dreams and fears, and all of which will perish in a nuclear war, all of which are opposed and harmed by weapons of war. And so thrilled to be here as a part of this collaboration and with everyone here on this fundraising live stream. So I'm just going to share a few updates on the action before we get to some other parts of the program. And then we'll have some kind of fun super chatting that we'll do on the Give Butter page that we've got too. So February 19th, we are going to take Washington, D.C., the Lincoln Memorial. We are going to rally at the Lincoln Memorial. We've got veterans, we've got speakers, we've got live music, rock music, some of which you're going to hear today, a preview. And then we are going to march to the White House, and we're going to take our demands straight to that demented warmonger, Joe Biden, who is definitely not calling the shots, but makes things worse every time he does open his mouth in this conflict in Ukraine. And so after that, we're also excited to share that hopefully we're hopefully going to have a film screening of Revealing Ukraine, which Oliver Stone helped produce. And then we are also going to have some exciting events later on, but Medea Benjamin is going to join us. And I think I'll wait for her to share some of those. Some of what we're going to do actually the following Tuesday when the House and Senate offices open back up. So I'll pass it back to you, Angela.
Great. So let's talk a little bit about our demands. People are wondering, like, what's the point of the rally? What are our demands like? What are we trying to see? So we worked on this together. Nick did a lot of the heavy lifting on this, which I appreciate. But we've got not one more penny for war in Ukraine, negotiate peace, stop the war inflation. A lot of people were surprised to see an issue coalition talking about inflation, but that's absolutely there. Number 3, disband NATO. Pretty bold move there, and we absolutely stand by it. Global nuclear de-escalation, slash the Pentagon budget. The billions of dollars go there and they're unaccounted for every year. They failed their 5th straight audit. That budget needs to be slashed. Abolish the CIA and military industrial deep state, abolish war and empire, restore civil liberties, and last but certainly not least, free Julian Assange. He is a political prisoner in all of this, and I feel that his incarceration is directly tied into protecting the deep state, CIA, and all of that stuff that we really think needs to be abolished. So, our hearts really go out to the Assange family and to Julian Assange. He should not be treated the way that he's treated, obviously. Do you want to add anything on that, Nick?
I'm very proud of the demands that we came up with. I think that it's one of the strongest set of kind of demands for any anti-war action that I've ever seen. And that makes me proud. It makes me proud that, despite our differences in other places, we can be so bold when it comes to this, and we can be so direct. Like that, our demand number 7, abolishing the CIA and the military-industrial deep state. I feel like we're going right to the heart of the matter. This country's not a democracy. We all know it. The military-industrial complex has a veto. The intelligence agencies have a veto over what happens in this country. They have assassinated a U.S. president, infiltrate activist movements, manipulate the media, and any institution that does that does not deserve to continue to exist. That it's getting back the freedom of actually having a democracy in this country means abolishing those institutions that were created, especially in the wake of World War II, when this country became a permanent war state.
Absolutely. We've had even presidents have warned against the military-industrial complex. Eisenhower, of all people. If it's too much for Eisenhower, it's definitely too much for me. So I want to go ahead and thank some of our sponsors. We've had people donate, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate that. Putting on this This event in Washington, D.C. is no joke. It is not a cheap thing to do. There are a lot of things that we absolutely have to do. According to the National Park Service, it's not negotiated. Like, we've got to have porta potties for thousands of people. We've got to have event insurance. We've got to have a medical tent, things of that nature. So some of the people that have donated to us are the Libertarian Party, obviously, the People's Party, the Mises Caucus, Peace in Ukraine, Liberty Speaks, the Radical Caucus, Action for Assange, Punk Rock Libertarians Podcast, World Beyond War, Center for Political Innovation, American Student Union, and the Libertarian Party of Virginia. If you have made a commitment to be a sponsor just today in the past like several hours, we may not have you up on our website yet, but I thank you so much. Drop us a comment and we'll make sure to get your logo up on the screen. So we've got a couple of guests who are going to join us now. And I am absolutely delighted to have them. It's super great. We really appreciate them here. A couple of foreign policy experts and fearless advocates for the anti-war cause. We've got Medea Benjamin, a political activist, founder of Code Pink, and creator of the fair trade advocacy group Global Exchange. Thank you, Medea, for joining us. And we have got the wonderful, fiery Scott Horton, editorial director of antiwar.com, radio host, and author of several best-selling anti-war books. Thank you so much, Scott, for joining us, except I don't know where the heck you are. Scott will be on in just a second. Medea, thanks for rocking with us tonight.
Great. Nice to be with you and Nick.
So tell us a little bit about some of the activism that you've been doing.
Well, I've been on a 50-city book tour, traveling all around this country with a new book called War in Ukraine, Making Sense of a Senseless War Conflict. And it's been fascinating, Angela, seeing what people think as I go around speaking to universities and to faith-based groups and to anti-war groups and all kinds of different organizations. What I'm finding is a tremendous level of frustration, not only about what is this war about, where is it going, what is the end goal of this, but frustration with the people in Washington who don't pay any attention to them, don't even bother meeting with them. So many of the groups that I talk to say, we can't get a meeting with our, quote, representative. You know, we have tried, we have asked, we have pleaded. They don't do town halls anymore. They don't talk to us. And so a feeling of disconnect. And I think that's something that we're building on as we move towards this February 19th gathering. It's kind of bringing together different people of different ideologies and people who just feel that they're not represented by the system and that this war machine is something that we have to rage against.
Absolutely. Scott, we would love to hear your perspective on this. You have done a lot of outreach, reaching just to different sectors in the anti-war movement. And I think that you've been a real inspiration and a great example for other libertarians when they feel sort of siloed and like they're unable to reach out and connect with other people.
Well, I think this rally is really important, and I sure hope that it's a great success, that people will come out. I've been flogging it on my LA radio show and telling people, look, I know it's a couple thousand miles away, but it's just a couple of $100 on a plane ride and back to go and to, make themselves heard and to show themselves. And hopefully, we'll have something that is remarkable for, a demonstration literally of, the will of the people opposed to what the war party consensus is right now in this country. And
can you tell us a little bit about the background of this? I feel like a lot of people just think, oh, this is Russia has invaded Ukraine and that's all there is to it. And we all need to just be quiet and give as much money as we can to Ukraine because they're just under attack, and it's black and white. And I know that that's not the case, but you're so much better at informing people of how this all really unfolded.
Yeah, the great libertarian historian and economist Robert Higgs, when he was talking about World War II and Pearl Harbor, So they always truncate the antecedents. And that is, they never talk about FDR's embargo on fuel and steel and his shipment of warplanes to China and all of his provocations before Pearl Harbor. And they go, oh, Pearl Harbor happened, and now we have to defend ourselves. September 11th happened. Now we have to begin to intervene in the Middle East. Russia invaded Ukraine. And so history began last February, and now we have to begin to intervene there. When, in fact, what happened, and I'm writing a book about this, and the documentary record is so clear, and this comes not from just critics, like Ted Carpenter at the Cato Institute and Dr. Ron Paul and others who warned all along, but really the centrist foreign policy establishment, the Council on Foreign Relations, the State Department, the Pentagon. They themselves said from the very beginning, if we expand NATO into the former Warsaw Pact states, without including Russia from the beginning, then obviously we're expanding an anti-Russia military alliance right into their former sphere of influence. They are going to react negatively. And as, Mr. X himself, George Kennan, from the State Department, who had really coined the Cold War policy, in the containment policy in the last Cold War, he warned in 1998. He said, I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen. The Russians are going to react negatively against this. And all the people who are now telling us that, no, they're not, it's going to be fine, they will then say, see, that's how the Russians are. And that's why we need to expand the defensive alliance against them. But that is just not right. We're the ones putting them in this position. So that does not justify what the Russians have done here. But it is true, as Putin said in his declaration of war, that essentially when Gorbachev and the old Soviet Union, as they were dying, and the new Russian Federation, as they gave Ukraine independence, it turned out there's no such thing as independence for Ukraine. If they let Ukraine go, America will take it and make it a colony and make it a forward operating base for our military alliance, which is absolutely unacceptable to him. Now, that does not mean that he was right to invade. And really, the violence started back in 2014 when Obama overthrew the government of Ukraine for the second time in 10 years. They overthrew the same guy who was, the Russian-leaning leader. And so in the name of democracy, they support a violent revolution against a guy who won a free and fair election. They say the election of 2010, the presidential election of 2010, was the freest and fairest in Ukrainian history. No problem. We'll just overthrow it. The wrong guy won. And that's the proximate cause of the current violence. And so, once you know all that, when you don't truncate the antecedents and you look at the fact of America's, essentially de facto integration of Ukraine into our NATO military alliance, then that opens up it, never mind, the morality of, whose fault it is and all of that, but it opens up the possibilities for compromise. That, if this didn't just happen out of the blue because of Putin's megalomania, but there's actually, security issues at stake, then that means that there are terms that are negotiable. And quite frankly, a year ago, in last December and January and February before the war, there were people who were saying, if we will negotiate in good faith here, there is real reason to believe that we could solve this problem. In fact, Samuel Charap from the Rand Corporation, who had advised a lot of the aggressive policies that had helped to provoke this conflict, he wrote a piece last November that said, listen, if all we're willing to do is warn the Russians that you better not, then that's not going to be enough to prevent a war. That's going to cause a war. But if we are really willing to tell the Ukrainians that it's time for you guys to man up and implement that Minsk II deal that you signed back in 2015, which he admits the Americans have never pressured them to do it and they didn't want to implement it. He said, if we could start with that, with truly implementing the Minsk II peace deal, then that would really change the entire dynamic here and really put the burden on Putin more to justify what it is he's doing. But the path we're on right now is the path to war. And quite frankly, I think they read Samuel Charap. I think they agreed with that. I think they knew that, but I think they preferred war. They were not willing to negotiate in good faith. They preferred to sacrifice Ukraine as a piece on the chessboard in the game with Russia. as they put it over and over again, overtly from the very beginning of the war. We would prefer to prolong the war in order to weaken Russia so that they're so weak, as our Secretary of Defense put it, that they won't be in a position to ever think about trying this against anyone else again. So NATO members told the Washington Post, we don't want the war, last April the 4th. They said, we don't want the war to end too early because then the Russians won't have been sufficiently weakened by the war. Of course, the problem is the game that they're playing is if they succeed in completely exhausting and defeating the Russians, that could lead to a major power conflict between NATO and Russia and the extinction of our species. There's essentially, it's virtually guaranteed that if 1 or 2 atom bombs go off between America and Russia and or our friends and allies anywhere, that's it. It's a full game of escalation from there. Somebody nukes the other's military command, then they nuke each other's naval bases, and then the next thing you know, Moscow and New York City, and the whole game is over. And you have general nuclear war. And over a country that our government avowedly insists is not truly part of our national interest, is not part of our NATO alliance, is not really going to be soon. And that, as Biden put it, rightly so, over and over again, we are not putting troops in there. Here's a country we are not willing to sacrifice our 82nd Airborne for, but we're willing to risk all of our major metropolises? Are you kidding me? And the whole thing is nuts. And just look at all of the, the pro-NATO, the NAFO trolls on Twitter. They just illustrate the case with all of their, insistence of just how important Ukraine and Georgia are. Well, I got news for you. Ukraine and Georgia aren't important at all. Most Americans thought Ukraine was part of Russia anyway, if you asked them a year ago. People, you have to call Georgia former Soviet Georgia, because otherwise people think you're talking about this state between Florida and South Carolina that actually matters to us. And if you say former Soviet Georgia, they still don't know where it is or care at all. So the NAFO guys got to get in your mentions and go, Ukraine is just as important as England. Oh, you would just let Putin change the borders in the Donbass? And the answer is yes. We don't care about the Donbass at all. We care about the civilian life there, but we don't care who has sovereignty over the Donbass. And we're certainly not willing to go to war over it. And that's speaking for the vast majority of the American people, if they had any kind of context here as to what's going on and what is at risk.
So let's bring on
Ukraine on a map before they support a war there.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's bring on Garland Nixon here, and I would love to get a little bit of perspective from Garland and Medea. Garland is a radio talk show host and political analyst in Washington, D.C., and I am just delighted to have all of you here together.
Thank you for inviting me.
Hey, Garland.
Hi.
You are welcome.
Garland, got a question for you, but before that, I do want to do our due diligence in the fundraising and shout out some of the people who've just donated. Laura Morris, Laura's with the People's Party in Maine. Thank you so much for your donation. Gave $50. We got an anonymous donation. Thank you, whomever you are, wherever you are. Scott Gearhart, he gave a $100 donation, and he wrote on our Give Butter page, which we posted. It's just givebutter.com/rage against war. And he wrote, war is an irrational solution to our differences, completely unnecessary and avoidable. We can do better. Thank you. Thank you, Scott. And we also, we've got people really contributing. Thank you guys. Oh my gosh. You're definitely making this a success. Ed Huff gave $25. Matthew Lorenz gave $100. Karina and Paul gave $25 and said, hope to see you there. I look forward to seeing you there too.
Great.
So Garland, we would love to hear just a little bit of your perspective about what's going on over in this conflict, the role that you played in calling it out and just trying to educate people in general about what's going on and why or what is at stake right now.
Well, one of the things that's important to understand is that even when we talk about Ukraine through the context of Russia, Ukraine, and the United States, you're still missing a major portion of the issue that we're dealing with here as a country, because we're also at the same time, the United States, and certainly I'm not getting away from Ukraine. I'm going to make a point here. Last week, the United States did a massive drill with Israel where they simulated attacking Iran. They are now arming Japan to make Japan the tip of the spear against China. South Korea is talking about getting nukes. And what is that all about? When you look at it in that perspective, from a worldwide perspective, you get back to one thing. It's called the Wolfowitz Doctrine. That's the problem that we have. The issue of empire. What's really going on with Russia is the Wolfowitz Doctrine. And I would commend all of our viewers to look up the Wolfowitz Doctrine. And basically, in a nutshell, what it says is the United States must remain the world power, and no countries can even become a regional power. That's why we have to tamp down Iran and Venezuela. These are countries that have a lot of oil and resources, and they have potential to be regional powers. Russia was a regional power with the potential to be a world power. Now it's a world power. So what we're looking at is something that won't stop. Now, we will be lucky, when they were dealing with Venezuela, when they were dealing with Iran, we were hurting a lot of people, and it was really bad, and it was dangerous for the region. Now, the Wolfowitz Doctrine has shifted to the potential for great powers, such as Russia and China, and then, of course, eventually India. They know the reason that India has sided with Russia and China is because they aspire to be a world power, and they know that if this goes down and the United States comes out on ahead, they're next. So we have to come together. People from all ideologies and races and creeds and walks of life all have to come together, because we're dealing with this neocon leadership of the country, of the world, that aspires for complete military and economic domination of the world. And right now they're looking at Russia saying, well, Russia's rising, we must stop them. But they're also looking over at China. Well, wait a minute. China's rising. We must stop them. Oh, no, Iran, they're rising. We must stop them. They have pretty much lost their minds. They've gone mad. They're working to maintain a unipolar world in a world that has already become multipolar. So they're not going to change. They are going to spend, even if we don't go to nuclear war, let's hope we don't, and let's hope we survive this. We've got people who are living on the streets in campers and cars. Our infrastructure is crumbling. Our country is crumbling. They're driving us to hate each other. Additionally, let me say this. They're maintaining us in an enslavement of ignorance through censorship and the persecution of Julian Assange. So we have so many problems here that this division, well, you're white, you're black, you're a Democrat, you're a Republican, you're left, you're right, you're Libertarian. Look, as they say, any port in a storm. We have problems here right now. We've got to focus on Ukraine because of the nuclear issue, but it's part of a much broader problem. And I'm glad to be a part of this group, because we have to put together a coalition of everyone who has good sense and who can see what's going on to come together to fight back against it. And I'm glad that's what's happening. And I think, let me say this, I'll end by saying this. Luckily, I'm on Pacifica in both Washington, D.C. and Los Angeles. And I see that when this started, people were all, well, Garland, you're a Russian bot. How dare you push back against this? That's changing. People are waking up. And what we're doing, I want everybody to know that what we're doing here is not a waste of time. People are waking up. All of the callers now in LA and in New York, and in Washington are different. People are waking up. What we're doing is working. We've got to continue to do this. We can build a multi-ideological, a really diverse, not like the woke people use diverse in all manners, diverse thinking, diverse ideologies. We can build an anti-war movement that's extremely strong.
Hear, hear, Garland. And we've gotten some more contributions, and actually really happy. I'm going to see if I can do this. Can I share an amazing update? Yes, I can. All right, check this out. We just got to half of our goal. Not for tonight. You're not off the hook. But overall, we set a goal of $45,000, raising $45,000, because we really wanted this to be a top-notch, well-produced event. Because every act of resistance matters. Anything you do, going and standing on a street corner, whether it's you yourself, going to a town hall, asking a question of AOC, getting it on camera. We've all seen how impactful any act of resistance can be, but we have to scale up. To change the course of the war machine, we got to scale up. And so thank you all for getting us to halfway of our 45,000 goal. And our just the production alone is probably going to cost us about $30,000-$40,000. That's the equipment. So that's why we have to raise these funds. That's the huge speakers that you see, at sporting events, festivals, or other big rallies, and also a jumbotron, and other equipment as well. That's what we want. An IMAG camera. I learned what an IMAG camera is. It's a camera that reflects a speaker onto a jumbotron. So learning all kinds of things. Wendy Farmer, thank you for your contribution. Ruben, thank you for your contribution too. And thank you, Mikone Coker, who gave $20 and said, keep up the uphill battle against the elites. But being able to bring together a group that is this diverse and this awesome gives me hope that we can make the change. I wonder, okay, I'm going to encourage people too. People who are contributing on the Give Butter. So again, givebutter.com/rage against war. That is where you can make a contribution. So we're going to treat this like YouTube super chats. So go there and put in a question with your donation, and we'll pose it to everybody who's here, because we have an amazing group of some of the best anti-war voices in the country are here with us. Scott, Medea, Garland. And so put a question in with your contribution and we can pose it to all of us. I've got a question though that I would love to hear your thoughts on Medea, because I was on Kim Iverson. I know she's going to have you on too soon. And, Kim said, it seems like they are going to try now, because Biden, to what Scott was saying, Biden was saying just a few months ago, he was saying, no, we can't send tanks. That would be the start of World War III. And he said it real slow. That would be World War III, Well, he should tell himself now, because that's what they're doing, So, so Kim was saying, I think troops are next, I said, I don't think so, because I think the minute you try to, you can poverty draft people in this country, you do that all day. But the minute you try to actually draft people, there's going to be a revolution in any European country. But she was also saying, I think they're just going to try to keep this going as like a Vietnam and Afghanistan, a low, I guess it would be a high intensity conflict that's like right at the edge of nuclear war. But but they're just going to keep that going, and they're going to try to drain Russia that way. To me, that maybe that would be their goal, but the rate at which this is escalating makes me think that that's not even the most likely trajectory here. We had the nuclear World War III scare in Poland with the missile that landed in Poland, and I'm very concerned that really, if we continue down this path, any day now we could erupt into nuclear war, and it could be from one day to the next, and this isn't going to be the kind of thing that just kind of drags on at some kind of intensity forever. But I'm really interested to hear what you think, Medea, about that.
I absolutely agree with you, except the next thing that the Ukrainians are already asking for is jet fighters. They did that immediately upon hearing Biden and Schultz from Germany saying that they were giving the tanks. They said, okay, thanks. Well, now we need the jet fighters. Every time they get something, they want something else. And that's understandable. But that doesn't mean that we have to keep giving it. And you're right. There is no way to stop this from either by accident or intent on any side from this going into a NATO country. And then Article 5 is invoked, which is an injury to one is an injury to all. We have to get directly involved. I think the U.S. is terrified about sending in troops, although let's admit there are trainers on the ground, there are special ops people on the ground, but actually sending in troops is something that Biden keeps saying he doesn't want to do, as do the other European countries. But I think it's more likely that maybe a European country would have to, because they're more likely to be attacked. And yes, the US might want this to drag on contained within Ukraine, but now they're talking about helping Ukraine attack Crimea. And when you're talking about attacking Crimea, you are really going down in this deep dive towards World War III or towards a nuclear war, because Russia just isn't going to pick up its troops and leave and say, okay, you can have Crimea now. So it's important to be asking, what is the end game in all of this? What is victory? And victory, according to Zelensky right now, is getting back every inch of the Donbas and Crimea. And when you hear people in the military in the US and in Europe, and even Blinken saying, well, that's not very likely, then you have to recognize that the only way to end this war is to get to the negotiating table and for both sides to be compromising, both sides meaning Ukraine and Russia, but also there need to be compromises between Russia and the US, because there's a heck of a lot to talk about between those two countries that impact the context for this war.
It's like they're going after the reddest of red lines that Russia has, you know, strike the nuclear air bases, go after Crimea. It's like they're trying to provoke them. What do you think, Garland?
Well, and here's the unfortunate thing. Most Americans don't have enough of an understanding of this, the dynamics of this crisis, to know what to make of it. When they say, oh, take back Crimea or take back the Donbass, here's the truth. Ukraine does not want Crimea or the Donbass back at all, for this reason. Think about this. You bring back millions of voters who, if they voted, they would vote for a pro-Russian candidate, wouldn't they? So if they brought back all of the people in Crimea, which they'd have to kill them all because they're pro-Russian, if they brought back all the Donbass people who are fighting against them right now because they are fighting, what they're saying is the people who are fighting us, who are at war with us in the Donbass, who we are shelling, we want them back in our country. What sense does that make? And when they were back in their country, they all voted for the pro-Russian candidates. So if they brought them back, they would be cutting their own throats ideologically, because they'd lose power, because they'd have people who would vote them out. So the reality is this: Ukraine doesn't even want the Donbass and Crimea back. This is just an ideological talking point, and they can't get it back. Let me add this about Crimea. Russia built the base in Crimea in the 1780s. If anybody thinks they're going to give that base back without nuking whoever tries to get it, then try to take Hawaii with the 7th Fleet and see what the United States does. You're not getting it. So there's some realities here that means a lot of the discussion that we get is meaningless. The tanks, they're saying, okay, we're sending tanks. We're not sending tanks. The tanks have been ordered from the factory, and they're saying once they're built, we will send the tank. So the reality is we're hearing all of this public relations. Right now, Germany says, well, it's going to be 3 to 4 months before we can even maybe get tanks. A couple of weeks ago, Germany said probably be a year. So a lot of the discussion that we're having is public relations to drag the conflict out. But as long as the conflict is out, what happens if they launch some missiles at Moscow or wherever the case may be? And Moscow sees some missiles coming in, and they don't know if they're nuclear missiles. They don't know what kind of missiles they are. They don't know if maybe we fired nukes at them. If the United States saw missiles coming into Washington, D.C., they may assume that they're nukes and say, we better launch because there's a first strike coming in. So that's the next thing. When you say we're going to provide weapons to attack Moscow or to attack St. Petersburg, a nuclear power does not have a lot of time to discern whether or not they are nuclear weapons or not. And they could end up making the wrong decision, and there's nothing but radioactive dust on the United States, on this land where people used to be. So our government, this is the most dangerous group of people in 4.5 billion years on this planet that we're dealing with right now. And we have to educate people, and people have to come together and say, you know what? Geez, there were sponges and then, bacteria and stuff running around. And what do you know? There's people, we won't even have sponges. And if we did, it wouldn't do us any good because we ain't sponges. We got to get together and stop acting like sponges. That's what I'm trying to say here.
Can I sign off just by thanking you, Angela, and Nick for this amazing work? It's so hard to do anything like this. You get attacked on all sides, and I'm sure you're being attacked on all sides. And it is difficult and courageous to stick your necks out and be doing this work. And I thank the people who are contributing, and I hope more and more will contribute. And I hope more and more people will come on the 19th, because it is so important that we show that we're alive and kicking in the United States, that there are indeed people who want to stand up against the war machine, who want to link up with our friends in Europe who are standing up against the war machine, who want to link up with the people in Ukraine and in Russia who want to end this war. So thank you so much. Let's hope the money rolls in and the people flock to this very, very important rally on the 19th.
Thank you so much, Medea. Really excited to see you talk in person and get to meet you. So we are going to be bringing on
Medea.
a wonderful musical guest next. We're going to be bringing on the one and the only Jordan Page, singer, songwriter, musician, author of some really powerful anti-war anthems. Those of you from the Ron Paul Revolution days are going to be familiar with his music. So we're going to take a little break to hear from him. Let's bring him on right now. Hey, Jordan, how's it going?
Oh, it's great. It's great. This has been quite a discussion. I've been really enjoying it.
So what are we going to hear from you today?
Well, as you just introduced me, I feel like when I got started on this path in my life, the day before, I was completely oblivious to all things going on in the world. I was in my own bubble, just was apolitical, had no clue what was happening, and had no inclination to want to know. And I had an experience that sort of like a divine intervention experience that focused me on, what I was supposed to be doing with my life. And it ended up turning me into an anti-war activist and liberty activist overnight, essentially. And one of the first, and I'm a songwriter, I'm a musician. I've been a professional musician since 2004, but I've been, performing since I was a little kid. And one of the first songs that I wrote when I got on this new journey back in 2006, 2007 was this song "Listen," and I think that's what I'm going to open with right now.
Fantastic.
Can you hear that guitar coming through?
It's great.
Okay. Can you still hear that? Listen to the sound that you hear like an echo in your head. There's a strange vibration rising out from the heart of America, America. Listen to the sound of the drum calling players to the game of the new world order. Don't be caught unaware when the heads start rolling. couldn't happen here. I know it never happened here. But I will not submit to authority of man. I'm alive, I'm awake. This is more than I can take. If you had an open door, would you kill a little more? Listen to the cries of the dead falling in Afghanistan. Is there no one out there? I see drones dropping bombs on the sons of Arabia. Listen to the sound of applause in a chamber full of men selling out their people as they plan their assault on the hearts of America. No, it couldn't happen here. I know it never happened here. And I will not submit to authority of man. I'm alive, I'm awake. This is more than I can take. If you had an open door, would you kill a little more? There's a war machine in motion, and the bullets fall like rain, and the light in the eyes of the innocent has faded into pain. Yesterday I knew the world was spinning toward the end, but today I see the wasteland, and it's too late to pretend. Listen to the words that you hear from a soldier in a down. Be mistaken. I believe in peace, but I won't be taken. And I will not submit to authority of man. I'm ready to die, but not for a lie. See the signs appear. No, it's gonna happen here. Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We would love another song, absolutely, if you've got it in you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. How
All
are
right,
the sound levels? Are they coming through okay?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
really impressed. Props to
Okay,
you,
awesome.
and I'm glad that StreamYard, hasn't failed.
Awesome. So this next song is one that I have not recorded yet, but I plan to, and I've played it at some anti-war rallies, but that's really the only place it's ever really gotten an audience. But I think it's just such a good message. This is called "The World Can't Wait," and I wrote this in response to the National Defense Authorization Act in 2012. I know that the time has come for the whole world to see, but the world will not bear the burden we wear, or the truth that enslaves us and sets us all free. I know that the time has come for the whole world to see how truth takes a slave from cradle to grave and burns down the walls of his captivity. And the wheels set in motion on the road to ruin are spinning faster now. And the world can't wait forever in the shadow of a war. And the world can't wait, 'cause when we're dead and gone, it's all too late. Then it's all too late. I know that the world is blind with no way to see the bond that was torn before we were born. Now turn the tides of war ultimately. And all consent is broken on the road to ruin, and there's no turning around. And the world can't wait forever in the shadow of a war. And the world can't wait, 'cause when we're dead and gone, it's all too late. Then it's all too late. Some other place and time. happening has happened before. And the world can't wait forever in the shadow of a war. And the world can't wait, 'cause when we're dead and gone, it's all too late. Some other place and time, the living and the dying, dancing deadly endless circles. And anyone can see what was and what will be. 'Cause to be sure, what's happening has happened before. I know that the time has come.
That was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for sharing that with us. So, yeah, I'd love to get your thoughts on everything that's going on. I know that you've said in the past you've been a little bit, taking a step back from everything since everything was locked down, and it's just kind of we were all pushed apart a little bit by government, unfortunately. But I feel like, in the wake of everything that's going on, and as terrible as it is, it's given us a really good opportunity to come together.
No, I totally agree. Like I look at these things as they're all by design. I've been shouting from the rooftops that these kinds of things were going to be happening for many, many years. Once I saw the writing on the wall and studied history, and I realized like these people are all, they have the same playbook. They just add to it. They just add, new innovations to how to terrorize humanity. And all warfare is based on deception. We've heard that at Axiom many times, but it's absolutely true. I was against the last war, and I'm already against the next war. This for me, this is all just geopolitical chess that the powers that should not be, that should never have been, are playing in their bid for depopulation, in their bid for control over resources and energy, and ultimately, human beings ourselves. And I'm not surprised by anything that's happened. I'm always amazed at these things, that they can pull these things off, that people are so in the dark and so easily led. And I don't want to use the word gullible, but they're easily swayed with the propaganda machine that exists worldwide. Just like, I don't believe in Democrats and Republicans. I don't believe there's any left and right. There's just one party that has two factions, and it doesn't matter if it's a left boot or a right boot on your throat. It's a boot, and they're the same guy is wearing both boots, the left and the right. And I see a lot of similar things. Relationships happening between leadership in different countries and the banking cartels, and if you're anti-war, and I've been anti-war probably since 2007 when I first woke up, and really like got dug in deep into the Ron Paul movement. You should be anti-central banking. You should be anti-Federal Reserve and anti-international banking cartels, because that they're the ones that fund both sides of every conflict. They always come out on top. And we are just pawns on a chessboard to these people. And it's when people stop signing up to fight in these wars, there won't be any. People don't want wars. Leaders want wars. That's the way it's always been. It's disgusting. War is always wrong. Fighting isn't always wrong. Like, I will fight to defend my community and my family and my children, of course. And I would fight to defend a stranger in need. But warfare is like Thomas Paine said it's the greatest of all sins, and I'm, I haven't changed it at all in my position on any of this. And, over the years, but I have taken a step back from politics and from touring, partly because of the shutdowns. And, I needed to spend some time getting ready for what I believe is coming, and getting my family ready, and getting us, self-sufficient. We're living off the land. We're raising animals. We're raising cows and chickens and ducks and horses. And we're going old school. And I'm not living like an Amish person, of course, but like we're trying to get prepared, and having seen seen the signs coming from a mile away. But I try to write songs that speak universally to people, and in these large concepts. I mean, there's way more intelligent people on this live stream than me. Mr. Nixon right here next to me, I really enjoyed listening to him talk. I loved listening to Medea and Scott. I've heard Scott speak so many times. I've done about 1 million events with Scott over the years, Scott Horton, and he's brilliant. You've really collected a really amazing, brilliant group of people to advocate for the anti-war cause. And really, it is a pro-human cause, because war is an anti-human cause. It's an anti-life cause. And right. Ultimately, like where I'm coming from where I'm sitting, it's a satanic thing. And I am a disciple of Jesus Christ, and I am vehemently, always, in every situation, against warfare.
Thank you so much, Jordan.
I want to take a sec to shout out some of the folks who have donated recently, especially while you were performing, Jordan, and your music is amazing.
Thanks.
We've had a bunch of people contribute. Thank you to everyone who's giving. Archie gave $10. John McCarthy, thank you, brother. $20. Cicero gave $15, said, "We believe, so we're misled. We assume, so we're played. We confide, so we're deceived. We trust, so we're betrayed."
Wow.
Robert Hicken gave $10, said, "With the Russian spy ship off the coast of Hawaii, what are the chances of another attack on U.S. soil?" I think the U.S. is the aggressor here. Grandma Nancy, $10. "I borrowed money and will be there on February 19th, coming from Southern Illinois. I'm done sitting around waiting to get blown up. Free Assange now."
Amen.
Wow. Amen. Yeah. Stephen Ferry, and see you in DC, Nancy. Stephen Ferry gave $20, said he would like a contact address, individual talk coordination. Would love to reach out to you after this, Stephen. Eric Jones gave $50. Thank you, Eric. Nancy Meredith gave $100 with you, 100%.
Thank you so
Nancy.
much.
It's so That's meaningful. Awesome. And Scott Gearhard gave $100, and I think this is the second time you give, Scott. Thank you a lot. Free Julian Assange. Give Edward Snowden his passport back and free him. Publishing and whistleblowing is not a crime. Hell yeah, that's 100% correct. And
absolutely.
I have something that I wanted to, Angela and I did an interview recently on Hardlands Media, and we were interviewed by Farron Balanced. She's awesome comedian in DC area, and she's going to be at the protest. And she had a question that I'd love to hear your answer to, Garland. She said, "What is the moment in your life that you knew that you were anti-war?"
That's a good question. I don't really know that there was a moment. I can say that 2016 was a period of time, and again, and I think it's important in the context of this conversation, I was a Democrat my whole life. And then Bernie came along and I saw, okay, here's Bernie and Trump. These people are something different. And I listened to them. And I was at Fox News at the time. And I remember being in the green room, having conservatives saying to me, well, they went home to Ohio and they heard people say, I'll vote for Bernie or I'll vote for Trump, but I won't vote for these people. And I started realizing things were different. And And one of the things that happened during that, and this is important, that really freaked me out. Hillary Clinton was saying the Russians are in Syria and we should make a no-fly zone over Syria. And people who are anti-war were saying, and I'm on antiwar.com all the time. I think Justin Raimondo, who I've interviewed before, was still there. And they were saying, well, wait a minute, where are you going to shoot down Russian planes? That could cause World War III. And I think that's something that really started to wake me up. The idea of a conflict between nuclear powers really kind of took it to another level for me. And I think that's when I really started to wake up saying, whoa, I didn't like all of this business of bombing the Muslim countries or sanctioning whatever country. But now you're at a point where you're talking about the potential extinction of the human race. This thing has gone mad. And so I would say, actually, the issue of Hillary Clinton saying we need to do a no-fly zone in Syria where the Russians are and the potential for conflict there is probably what snapped. If anything made me snap, I think that's what made me snap. And from then on, I started focusing on foreign policy, anti-war, et cetera. And think right now, that's why I keep saying there's, 30% of Americans are Democrats, somewhere around 30% are Republicans, right? 40% aren't. We who aren't are the majority. The majority needs to come together and say, look, forget all of this Republican Democrat ideological stuff. We are the majority. We don't want a nuclear war. We want to have a country where the money that we make is used to build a road, or we keep some of it or something, rather than you spend it all on war and you take the chance of annihilating us all. So yeah, I would say 2016 was a time when I started to wake up really politically, and when I saw the potential for great power conflict. Let me add this. Kevin McCarthy now says he's going to follow in Nancy Pelosi's footsteps and fly to Taiwan to provoke China. So we've got two parties. We've got two brainwashed cults. One of them says, well, our job is to provoke possible war with Russia. The other says no, that's crazy. That's madness. We got to provoke possible war with China. And we've got people here saying we don't want a war. We're the majority. There are 40% of us. Our say should go. And we've got to continue what we're doing and get this 40% to realize the power that they have. When people realize it and recognizes that we are the majority and that we have the power and that we shouldn't bicker amongst each other for minor or even some major disagreements, we can work those out with diplomacy. We can work those out with democracy. But we can't work it out if we don't use our majority status to force these people to back into line, and we can stop being a warmongering nation. When the people don't want to be a warmongering nation, a small group of madmen and women want to do it. We don't want it. The average person wants to work and feed their family and have a life and go to a bar and drink a beer and that kind of go fishing. That's what we want to do, and we need to make an environment where that's how we can live.
Well stated. Well stated.
Angela, do we want to do some updates on the action? Because I know we had some more we wanted to share.
Yeah.
And I'm just about out of time, guys. So I certainly appreciate it, but I'm going to have to make a run.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being with us, and we look forward to seeing you there in person on February 19th.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks a ton, Garland.
Keep up the good work.
See you soon.
All righty.
So for those of you who are just catching up with us, we are fundraising right now for our anti-war rally, Rage Against the War Machine, February 19th in Washington, D.C. at the Lincoln Memorial. We have had some excellent music from Jordan Page. We've had Garland Nixon, Scott Horton, and Medea Benjamin on to share a little bit about why this cause is so important to them, the history of war in Ukraine, and why we need to be avoiding this and getting the United States out of it. Really excited that we've been working on adding some additional actions to the weekend so that you've got all kinds of cool events. If you're flying up there or you're traveling, you might want to extend your travel plans. And if it's within driving distance, stick around, and I'll let Nick go over some of the finer points of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So with Medea Benjamin and others, we are organizing a Rage Against the War Machine 2 days after the rally and the march. The rally and the march is going to be February 19th on a Sunday, 2 days afterwards, after the holiday, because it's President's Day weekend. Monday's a holiday. But Tuesday, 2 days later, we are going to go to Congress and we're going to take our demands into the House building, and we are going to do a sit-in and occupy some strategic members of Congress who maybe you can guess, but we are going to be taking our demands, and we're going to demand a response from them on on those 10 demands that we have. We also have, after the rally, after the march, we are going to have a get together, a celebration, perhaps a reception at a restaurant or a hotel nearby, so that we can celebrate as a group what we've managed to accomplish. What we managed to accomplish in terms of bringing people out against the war machine to mount a real opposition against looming nuclear war, and also to celebrate the fact that we did it as people coming together across ideological differences to put on what could very well be the biggest march and rally against the war machine since the Iraq war protests in decades. And that is a huge accomplishment, and nothing less than that is required. Nothing less, because just yesterday, the German foreign minister outright said we are in a direct war with Russia, a direct war between two nuclear superpowers. It's unbelievable. As I mentioned a few months ago, Biden said, no way we're going to send tanks. Are you crazy? That's going to start a third world war. Now they're sending tanks. So they are crazy. They are crazy. Next, it's going to be the jets. Then it's going to be troops, some kind of coalition of the willing. And then it's going to be the nukes.
Yeah, and that's what we're looking to avoid. If you care about the future for your family, for yourself, if you just want to see the world be a better place, maybe you're coming at it from a climate perspective. Who knows? There's so many reasons to want to avoid nuclear war. It sounds like such an absurd, very low bar, but there are so many people who are just blinded by political cowardice, fear, groupthink, who think that this is just no big deal. I've heard people say that, it'll just be a small nuke. We won't be hurt. We're not, we don't believe that, but we're also not going to take our chances. That doesn't sound like a very safe or sane approach to take when it comes to gambling with nuclear war. But yeah, aside from all of that, we really appreciate your support as we get ready to fundraise, we get ready to put this thing together. We want to bring Jordan out too. We want to get some more music there in person. We're really excited about our lineup of guests too. You can see them all at rageagainstwar.com. We're going to have Supreme of Wu-Tang there. So we're going to have a couple different kinds of music, hopefully. And Dan McAdams from the Ron Paul Institute. That's really awesome. We've got some other really good guests too. Nick, do you want to mention any of them by name?
Yes, absolutely. So coming to speak with us, we've got Jimmy Dore, Medea, who is with us, Scott Horton, who is with us, David Swanson of World Beyond War.
Yeah.
In fact, maybe I can just show everybody.
Yeah,
here.
let's do that. Let's share the screen.
Yeah. All right, I'll put it up now. So yeah, Jimmy, Medea, Scott, David Swanson of World Beyond War, Garland, who was just with us, Daniel McAdams, Executive Director of the Ron Paul Institute, Max Blumenthal, Editor-in-Chief of the Gray Zone, Anya Parampil, journalist with the Gray Zone, Supreme with the Wu-Tang Clan, producer with the Wu-Tang Clan, Tara Reid, Diane Sayre, Scott Ritter, Kim Iverson, Jackson Hinkle, Matthew Ho, and Craig Pastor-Jardula. So it is an amazing group of people that we have joining us.
Absolutely. And we are looking for additional sponsors too. So if you go to rageagainstwar.com and you go to our sponsors, you'll see these are the people who have donated at sponsorship level. And we appreciate you guys so much. Shout out to all of you guys. And if you want to get your logo up there, we would love to get it up there too. And you can also get a table at our event. So all of our sponsors are going to be able to pass out literature and be there in person or send representatives. And and help to get your message out to. What's really great is no matter all the different ideological backgrounds we have, everybody is united around wanting a peaceful future for the rest of the world.
Right.
Any other thoughts, Jordan? You've been hanging out with us for a little bit, which we really appreciate.
Well, I just kind of, I want to say, like, I've done so many of these types of events, and I want people to understand that they don't put themselves on. It takes incredible amount of effort and willpower to see them through. And, you know, Angela and Nick are really selflessly giving of their time and energy to put this on because they're true believers in this cause. And I just want to really encourage everybody to give everything that you can give, and share this with your networks, with any organizations that you know that might want to be sponsors for this event. I mean, this is in the age that we live in, this is just such an important thing, and educating people is really the first step in changing anything, because, you know, the centralized state has control of people's minds on so many levels from the ground up. We're taught to salute and to just and to obey and follow orders, and we're not taught to question these things, and that's because they want, like, the powers that should not be want everyone, all of us, to just be mindless drones without identity, and that's how they get what they want. And so having events like this is a direct action against the programming that we've all been subjected to since birth. I mean, I was raised by the public school system, and I knew absolutely nothing. It took an act of God to help me break free from my programming. So, and it changed my life, and I'm a better person for it. And I just encourage you not just to come to this event, but to bring people to this event, and to send people to rageagainstwar.com and donate, and just and donate. Even if you've donated once, donate again a week from now. You know, the event's February 19th, and Angela and Nick need all the help that they can get, and all the support and prayers that you can share and offer. So please, you know, these organizations are standing for something important. You know, this isn't an idle action. This is calling people together with one purpose, and that purpose is good. You know, we're not out here celebrating death. We're celebrating life and wanting the human race to continue, and so please help. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Another really cool thing that we're going to be offering is transportation to the event. So,
do you want to get there?
Yes. If you live within a 4-hour driving radius, and you're like, oh, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I can make the 4-hour drive. Don't worry, because you go to our website, go to the resources page, and you'll see a little transportation icon. Click there, and you'll be able to find a bus route. So we've had some really generous sponsors and donors and just hardworking volunteers who are putting together transportation routes coming all the way from Pennsylvania, New York City. I think we might have people coming from New Jersey. I think we've got a bus coming all the way up from Florida. I don't know if they've been added yet. Yeah, but we've got a lot of people coming in. So you've seen comments about people flying in. That's happening too. It's been really remarkable. We did a really great radio interview with Gay Waves earlier, which is a LGBT radio station out in the Midwest, and they've got people flying in. So if you're feeling like this might be a little bit too far, there might be a way for you to get there. Any other cool stuff? Yeah,
that just shows how widespread this particular issue is. It crosses demographic boundaries, ideological boundaries. You know, it isn't a conservative issue or a libertarian issue or a liberal issue. It's a humanity issue. It's a human rights issue. So that's really encouraging.
Absolutely.
I want to answer a question in the stream. Will the event be live streamed for those who cannot make it? Absolutely. Also want to shout out some other additions to our resources page here on the website, and that is the sister rallies. So we have got sister rallies because we have had a bunch of people reaching out to us and saying, hey, you know, it's I can't make it to the East Coast, but would love to organize a rally where I am. And so we have got folks who are doing that in San Francisco. Cynthia is organizing a sister rally there, and they actually have a meeting tonight where they're going to with peace groups there and activists, where they are going to decide the specifics, like the location, the time, all of that. So excited for that. Just spoke with Cynthia earlier today. And we've got one in Sacramento also with California United Front. And we've got the details on that one coming too. In Austin, Texas, Will is going to put one on. Will's contact info is here. As soon as the details are determined, they'll be up here on this page on the website, rageagainstwar/rallies. So you can find them there. And you can reach out to the organizers who are adding their emails here if you want to attend, and of course help them organize. Please help them organize. Yep. If you can't make it to Washington, D.C., and there isn't a sister rally near you, then host one. If there is one near you, get in touch with the organizer so you can help them out to organize it. In Los Angeles, Lena's putting one together. And then, of course, we've got ours in Washington, D.C.
That's amazing.
Yes. You can reach out to the vice chair of the Libertarian Party of California if you want to get in touch with them about getting like a libertarian group there, or joining up if you're trying to meet up with people. I believe they're going to be trying to coordinate to get people there as well. So their annual convention is in Sacramento this year at the same time. So there's a little bit of a timing conflict, but then there's also like a perfect opportunity. And I believe the Libertarian Party of Washington is also trying to work with their local Green Party on setting something up in the Seattle area as well. So that's not up yet, but stay tuned. There are more details to come.
Yes, absolutely. Encourage everyone from the Green Party to join us in taking on the war machine.
Yes.
It takes all of us. Another update that we have is, and I want to thank Christian and Jorge for doing so much work on the website. All the beautiful graphics that you see, is a result of their work and the website. They really have been amazing at creating this incredible aesthetic for the action. So shout out to them. And speaking of which, if you want to share, help us promote on social media, we have just uploaded a graphics page right there on the homepage that you can get to. And here we have poster-sized graphics of all of our speakers. There you see Jimmy, Scott, Garland, Medea, David, Daniel, Max. And then we have horizontal versions. So everything you could want here to share. I mean, these graphics are really amazing. Christian's a very talented graphic designer. So come here, grab them, share them to promote the action and bring as many people as possible. And I want to come back here and I want to shout out the folks who've donated too. Ethel, thank you. We the people want peace. Yes, we do. People almost never vote for war. Certainly not in this case. Stephen Armstrong made a $25 donation and shared Rage Against the Machine. Evil Empire. Oh, what happened to you, Rage Against the Machine?
Shame. So they're not going to be joining us. We're very sorry. They're invited, but they're not joining us.
They're invited, but they decided they're for war now.
Everyone is invited except Ray Epps. Ray Epps is not invited. So just throwing that out there. No Ray Epps. Stay home.
Anonymous gave 100. End the never-ending wars. Thank you. So please keep contributing to help get us to our goal of 45,000 because we have a stage, jumbotron, speakers, all kinds of professional equipment, the labor that it takes to set that up, the manpower that it takes to run that, insurance, porta potties, it's such, you think, oh, well, that's not too hard, right? You just get people at a memorial, you just get people somewhere and you call it an event. No, there's expenses all over the place.
Yeah.
It's a lot more complicated than that. Yeah, I know, right? Wouldn't that be nice?
That would be really nice. So, at the end of this event, we are going to have a march from the Lincoln Memorial to the White House. want to remind us all, we're not going inside the White House. No matter how much they open the door and they tempt you in with a velvet rope, we're not having January 6th 2.0. So keep it peaceful, keep it safe, keep it outside on the streets and in the designated areas, because we want to be invited back. We want to do more rallies and events. You know, we hope that we make an incredible impact and difference here, and so we're coming back for different issues. But we do want to have a pretty good relationship with the National Park Service and be invited back to the Lincoln Memorial.
Yeah, and they're just, you know, they're just doing their jobs. But there are people who, you know, we hope this doesn't happen, you know, because I know it's happened before to other people who are organizing events where the government throws up all kinds of roadblocks and barriers. So thankfully, we haven't encountered much of that yet. So, you know, hoping that goes for the rest of our experience organizing.
So we're closing out our live stream this evening. We're going to have a lot of updates for you, keeping them coming right up until the event. I want to thank Jordan so much for joining us and for inspiring us with music and, you know, tonight, but also just over the past several years, helping people feel really like connected to the Ron Paul Revolution and to the anti-war movement. It's been a real treat, and we really appreciate you.
Thanks so much. Thanks for all that you do too, both of you. And thanks for inviting me to be part of this. Yeah.
You are so welcome. You know, we treat the American military machine like a sacred cow, but it's really a golden calf. And if we don't get people in this country to stop worshiping it, it's going to be our downfall. You know, we have come together, the Libertarian Party, the People's Party, and all of our wonderful volunteers. We've had independents, people from Action from Assange, a handful of people from the Green Party as well. We're opposing America's and NATO's involvement in this war in Ukraine and the United States' foreign policy of regime change and expansion of its military empire. And what we really want to send a strong message with this rally about is just ending America's legacy of brutality in foreign policy. And we don't want to see trillions of dollars used to expand this militaristic empire while the value of the dollar is strangled at home, while people are hungry, while we're experiencing the effects of inflation, especially due to wartime and war causes. So thank you, everyone, for coming together. Nick, do you have any last thoughts or any last words for us?
Yeah, I would just say that, you know, when it comes to for thousands of years in human history, millions of years, we literally didn't have the ability to destroy ourselves as a civilization, as a species, even if we wanted to. You know, even the most violent king or religious leader or crusader or whatever it is could not have done it if they wanted to. But that changed 70 years ago. And now we do have the weapons to literally kill everyone on Earth and to annihilate this planet. And so we can't afford to fight another war like the First World War, the Second World War. These transitions in global power, these tectonic transitions like the one we're in today, have been historically marked by wars. We can't afford that. And the only thing that's going to take us off that ledge is if people stand up and fight back. Because if people don't, if we do nothing, if we're complacent, you know, if we just shrink back into the brave new world fog of war, then the military-industrial deep state will interpret from that. They'll say we have carte blanche to do whatever we want to take us over, you know, barrel us over the cliff into nuclear war. And it doesn't necessarily have to be because it's decided by Biden or Putin. But when you're so close for so long, any accident, any rogue provocation, any mistake, any false radar reading, then that's it. And that's it. And we don't get a second try. It's not a video game. We have to get it right the first time. So thank you to everyone who's going to join us. Thanks to everyone who's contributed. Proud to be organizing this with you.
Yes, thank you all. So we're looking forward to seeing you in Washington, D.C. on the 19th. If you're setting up a satellite event, we want to send you a word of encouragement there. I just love that we're all standing in solidarity on this action across the country and over in Europe as well. So thank you all. Have a great night, and we'll catch you next time.